Mic test. Just checking the sound. Right, let's see here. Right, let's see here. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone who's joined us today. Sorry about the background noise. I think it should subside soon. Today's session is about grandma stories, yeah? These are stories that my grandma used to tell all of us. So, it used to be, how do I say this? I got distracted again by the noise. So these are stories that my grandma used to tell us, as kids in the night, yeah, before going to bed. And for me, it took, I think, 30 years on what, seeds she was sowing in my mind, with these simple stories that she told. So today, how these stories help me to prioritize, help me to understand a little bit, or have a clear understanding of the situations, and how they help in my lifestyle, yeah. So I'll like to share that in the form of songs, stories, and ideas, and see if it helps you. Great, yeah. Or if it resonates with you. कुछ ना दिखे तेरे सिवा, तेरे सिवा दुनिया में कुछ भी ना दिखता है तेरे सिवा, तेरा नशा छाया है, छाया है, छाया है तेरा नशा। ये नशा बढ़ जाए ना, कहीं रगों में चढ़ जाए ना, तेरे बिन कुछ ना रहा, प्यार बेबस कर जाए ना। इस तरह खोना किसी में ठीक भी है या नहीं, प्यार के सागर में मैं डूब ना जाऊं कहीं। ये है दुआ या है सजा। So, my grandma, yeah, after dinner, used to get us all together, yeah. So we had one room for the kids, where all the kids slept, and she would be there with us, and she would take all the requests of stories one by one, and they would be repeat, by the way, yeah, but we loved them. And these stories were of prince and princesses, yeah, kings, and it would be about families, but most of them, or all of them, would always emphasize on, now thinking back, yeah, all these stories would emphasize on being content versus being greedy. They would focus on being in harmony versus trying to be powerful and control. And they would focus on, how our desires get the better of us and how we could love instead. So, greed versus content. Power versus compassion. Desire versus love. And also about anger versus peace, I would say. And lastly, not the least, I think all of them had a story about being selfish and egoistic versus selfless. And her stories were so simple, that me as a first grader, second grader, or fifth grader, or even up to, I guess, eighth grader, yeah, I found them interesting because I think they were life lessons about how a king who tried to conquer more and more eventually lost everything he had, and he found the treasure that was the most important in life, which was his family, the love of the people. example. Yeah. And then she would talk about how a man went into the forest to cut down dry branches for fire and lost his axe in the riverbed. And when presented with a golden axe, he said, "No, that's not mine." "Silver one, no." And then when he was given what was his, which was just a normal axe, he took it. And this aqua angel per se gave him the other two axes as well. So, how to be truthful? These were the things that she talked about, which I think helped me to prioritize in my life. Of the most important thing being health, one's own health. That's been the first and topmost priority. Because without health, you have nothing. And she would talk about this, after she told the stories. That first thing is health. Always, be healthy. Don't worry about the tests and the school and whatnot, but be healthy first. And she would say, second is family, relationships. Always be compassionate, always help each other, be it your brothers, sisters, parents, uncles, aunts, friends, teachers. Always help each other, be respectful. And then she would tell, all those stories that she had told, which had this essence. And the last thing she would always emphasize is learn. Learn from every experience. It don't matter what it is. Always learn. It don't matter if it's happy or sad, but learn from it on how you can be better. And then she would talk about how the prince learned from his mistakes. So now, 40 years later, or 50 years later, whatever you call it, I find these lessons or these stories became my OS, in computer language, operating system, like the Android and the iOS of Apple or the Windows, So this is like the OS for me. And what is the priority? Health is number 1. Relationships, number 2. Family, friends, everyone. And last is to learn from everything. Whatever comes, whatever may happen, learn from it. Thank you. Space, oh my time, space, where will you go
here is where you'll be when you leave. The time when you leave the space. Will you touch, and what will you taste? What will you hear, and what will you send when you leave? The time when you leave the space. In the now, in the here, you will know what is real. The scent of the earth, the sight of the suns, the touch of the breeze, the taste of the rain. In the now, in the here, you will know the sound of silence. In the now, in the here, you will know what's within. The peace, the love, the truth within you, me, in everyone and everything. In the now, in the here, in the now, in the here. So, with her stories, she embedded the ideas of health, relationships, and learning as a priority. And how it helped was just, I don't know, it's just amazing. When I lost my job, way back, due to a downturn in economy, it seemed pretty intense, the situation. And I remember coming home and having a chat with my family and my wife. My son was, the first one was, I think, a year old maybe. Yeah, I think he was a year old. We had just bought a new home and whatnot. And I remember talking to my wife and I said, hey, you know what? We're all healthy and alive. So it's just a matter of finding another job to pay the bills. That's about it. But the key is we got help. And I think it's a blessing from above that everything worked out, I got a job and much better opportunity in terms of learning.
rest is history. So where do these priorities come to the forefront is in terms of crisis. So in the recent times, with whatever is happening with the pandemic, a lot of things are happening. But at the end of the day, if the priority is to be healthy, I think it gives us a clarity on the decisions we have to make, on how to be healthy. So even during crisis time, as long as we focus on our priority, hey, you know what? I have to be healthy. That's number one priority. Maybe the business isn't running as smooth as it was, especially if you have a restaurant or into travel, but that's fine. We got our health. The pandemic will be over. Then we'll recoup, whatever was lost. But health, we can't lose that. So how to be healthy? And especially when it's crisis mode, relationships become very, very, I think, sensitive and fragile. So how can we share what we have versus expecting something from others? I think is what this priority of relationship embeds in us. In these fragile times, how to be one as a family, as a group of friends, as colleagues, right? We may make different decisions or have different choices or different preferences, We may be different in a million ways, let's say, but as a human being, we are related to each other. So how can we share whatever we have? It might be good ideas, love, maybe some extra resources, I don't know, anything. But how can we share with each other? And see that we are all a human being. That's how my grandma's stories help me prioritize, especially during crisis. Thank you. My love, your love, all one love. My love, your love, all one love. Love, fall in love, love.
all I get, all that's lost, friend. Everything is meant to merge one day into love. So, these priorities of health and family and learning were embedded by my grandma with her bedtime stories. We talked about health, we talked about relationships and family. Learning. We learn from books. We learn from information per se. And then we learn from life. The experience. Sometimes we term that as good experience, and sometimes we term that as bad experience. And my grandma said, when everything that happens for the good of me, then every experience is good. And how do you see the good in it? Try to see the lesson in it. Whatever it may be. Your parents might come and discipline you. And I used to go to her, my dad said this or mom did this and I'm so angry, blah, blah, blah. And she would always say, I know, I understand. But do you know why they're saying that? I said, I don't care. She'll say, fair enough. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, but now, why don't you go and play? And the next day, she would make it a point to ask me. You came, you were crying, you were doing this, you were doing that, saying this or that. What do you think about that now? And I said, you know what? I know I shouldn't have been naughty. And I know what they did was only, I guess, for my good. But still, I'm angry. And she'd say, okay, no problem. And she would always say, as you grow up, there's things that you may not like that happen. But always reflect on them and try to see the lesson in it. And you will grow. So here's the finale, My grandma never went to school, nor did she attend any big universities. But her knowledge was something that she lived by, principles and priorities. And I think that's the foundation. Our principles, our priorities become the foundation
on which, the information we assimilate helps us, or sometimes it may not, depending on our principles and priorities. And this person who never went to school had strong, I believe, principles and priorities, the basic foundations of life. And I think out of that, when we go through this experience of life, I think we start getting common sense or life sense, if I want to call it, that helps us grow. Because what I read today is outdated tomorrow. But my principles and my priorities, they never get outdated. Unless they're counterproductive, And that's where the common sense comes in. So I think everything is just connected, So today, based on the principles and priorities that my grandma embedded in me with her bedtime stories, a realization has come about over the years that with balance, I have good health, work and play, rest and exercise, family and friends, a balance in whatever we do. When we do that, I think we are blessed with good health. By opening up and expressing whatever we feel, whatever we think, I think helps us to build relationships. At least 50% of the way. But when we are open and accepting of the other, whatever, it may be, I think it helps us build that relationship to 100% that it can be. That's the second idea that I've been trying to practice, Again, all these ideas of balance and open, practice, still practicing. And I fail and fall every day. The very last part, to learn from everyone and everything. Someone might be kind and share some kind words, and someone might be rude and share something that might be aggravating. Learn from both. Sometimes something might happen which is a success, sometimes something that may be termed as a failure. Learn from the result so I can be better. And with that, a little bit of clarity is coming into every situation that I go through. Baby steps, one step at a time. So, to end and conclude, the seeds that my grandma planted about 40 years ago or more today have sprouted as balance, open and learn. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Hope to see you tomorrow, same time. And if you need to look at the recordings or read the books for free, again,